I pause here and I will invite Ernie to just share with us why do you think teams matter, Ernie?
Ruby, before I do that, could you go back to the last slide? I'd like to make a comment and tell a quick story. We are in the learning business. We call ourselves learning coaches, shared leadership coaches, but we are assuming that everybody that we work with, today included, are interested in learning, getting a little bit better, more information, more skill, etc. And so as coaches, when we are in the coaching modality, we are there to observe what is happening. How is it happening? Is this a learning moment? What could I do? What should I do? What will I do? So we have all these questions as coaches, as HR leaders, when we're sitting in a team, when we're working with our boss, when we're working with our direct reports, when we're working in a training situation, is constantly looking at the plant as it's growing. And we're plants. We're part of that. We're in the hands. Those are our hands. We're part of the soil. We are all of this picture under right above learning. I was working in a shared leadership development program with one of our clients in China, and we had coaches in the room who were facilitating and supporting the teams who were working on real projects. And at the time that this story took place, we had one of the head of strategy in the room talking about a new product. And she came in to talk for an hour to the group. And you can probably recall a similar story in your own situation. She had a PowerPoint deck with a lot of words, very few pictures, and she had a lot to say. And she was reading her PowerPoint. And the people in the room were starting to fall off. They were losing interest. And what happens when people lose interest? They pull out their mobiles and they start doing things that are of relevance to them. And before long, she had lost all but six who seemed to be paying attention. And I say seemed to be because I don't really know. They had their mobile under the cover, but they weren't using it. So I could see a number of my coaches looking at me because I was the one who was sort of leading the overall project management role here. And I said, I've got to do something. This looks like a learning opportunity. So the lady who was presenting had 45 minutes to go, and I slowly moved up to her, and she saw me coming, and she said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I think we need to take a break. We're going to call it a internet mobile break. For those of you who aren't already on the break, you can join, and we'll do this for another 10 minutes. So please do your internet, talk to who you know need to talk to. I know you're all busy people and you have a lot of things to manage. So go do that now. And then in 10 minutes, we'll all come back, put our mobiles away, and pay attention to what we have to learn from so-and-so. So they sort of looked around in surprise and they got out their mobiles and they took their break. It didn't take long for them to take that invitation. And I took a minute and I asked her if she was aware that 3/4 of the audience were already on an internet mobile break. She said, no, I hadn't noticed. She was not aware of her audience. She was focusing with her back half turned to the audience, reading her PowerPoint. She was not engaging. She had something very important to say, but it wasn't getting through. She was doing what we call training, talking to the actual information as opposed to talking to the people, which is in the learning business. So I suggested she may want to consider in the remaining 8 minutes which of those PowerPoints she could get rid of, and if she could just talk to the points that she wanted to make and look at the audience. I said, if you do those two things, shorten your presentation, talk to the key things, and they will listen. If you're looking at them, you will engage them with your eyes. I'm going to get out of your way so you can figure out. 8 minutes went by. She was ready. Everybody came back. Their mobiles were away. They were engaged because she was presenting her thoughts directly to them without a lot of PowerPoint. He got an extra 10 minutes. After our lunch break, we had a little circle for everybody to say what we call an accidental insight, AI. and they all had accidental insights about what happened before the break. And it was a wonderful learning moment for everybody on the dual responsibility of being able to present in an engaging way, as well as the responsibility of learning and not getting distracted. It's easy to get distracted. So, Ruby, I just wanted to tell you that because our part of our role is all of those different modalities. From time to time, we're wearing all of those hats. The most important for us is the learning hat. How do we create a learning environment? And it's by being conscious, being aware, being ready to interact and interrupt and create an intervention, allows people to really learn. So the intervention was to stop giving people over lunch to talk about whatever they wanted to, and then after lunch, find out what the AI was, the accidental insights, which to me are the most important part of any intervention. So
That's great, Ernie. And it's a wonderful story that demonstrates the application of all of these modalities as a team coach. You know, in the team coaching agreement, and the International Coach Federation says that as a coach, you can decide which modality is needed by the team at that point, and then go back to your coaching hat and do that AI, extract the learning. Most of the time, as teachers, as mentors, or as consultants, we fail to do that, right? We fail to go beneath the iceberg. We just look at the top of the iceberg and address those which are obvious, but not about the feelings, the thoughts, the principles, the values that people bring with them in that. And in that situation, yes.
And what I did, Ruby,
Mhm.
I took the SRWR and said, what could I do? Why would I do it? How would I do it? And so what? So I used SRWR and format at my seat as I was debating what could I do, what should I do, what will I do, and then I did it. So that commitment to change. And what you have demonstrated here is few words on a page with pictures. We remember pictures. I think after this story, everybody's going to remember the hands holding the earth that holds the plant. And we are all of the above from time to time in different positions. If you could change the slide, what I'll do is draw a close to the first part, which is on coaching, team coaching. What is it? How do we do it? What are some of the challenges? So why teams matter? Teams matter because we all have influence. We all can demonstrate this influence by our competence. We have to know. We have to know what's happening in teams if we're going to be competent coaches. We need to know what's under the hood, like a mechanic knows everything that's happening in a car. That competence is critical. As well with us, we need to know what happens and goes on in teams if we're going to be able to really influence. Then we have to have confidence to do that, be able to step up and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, folks. And you get that by experience. And our collective experience can really accelerate that learning. We don't have to just depend on each of us learning together. We have a network of people that we can ask help from and learn. Then we have to look at what power do we have. So if you could put on the next bit of slides here. And if you can look at the picture, we have wonderful diversity in most of our organizations, even although we may all look like Filipinas. We have different personalities. We have different learning preferences. We have different decision-making preferences. There's a lot of diversity that we have. So bring that diversity, welcome it, share it, use it as a way to continue to learn. And that collective wisdom, particularly inside that tacit knowledge, we don't know that we have it until we actually do an SRWR and start writing down what is it that we know, what are the questions we think are important, which all leads to learning. That learning power is amazing if we have the confidence to be able and the courage to say, we're going to do something. And that leads to ownership. We all then have a chance. And this is what's the trigger for the next, and the catalyst for the next part of our meeting, which is getting into how do we collectively own and share the leadership in a team. In a team, if we're able to collectively own this, all be accountable, all be part of the decision-making process using the FIST 5, all reducing the risk. There's a lot of risk out there, but collectively saying, I can reduce this part, I can reduce that part, and looking at the opportunities, not getting stuck in the fear of failure. Because very often we say, I can't do it. And that I can't do it keeps us from trying out. I can't do all of it, but I can do a little bit. What is the little bit I can do? A big game changer that goes on inside our mouth and our minds. So we have influence, power, and ownership, and IPO. If we can do an IPO in our own teams, imagine how powerful, how confident the change that we have to take on can be. All right. I invite you to take a 5-minute break. Take a look at your own watch and see where you are, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. I have 10:27, so that means in 10:32, I'm going to be back here with you. Go enjoy whatever you want to do in your break. And teams make up organizations. They're the building blocks. And to be able to understand if we want a good organization, a smart organization, an IPO organization, we need to have teams. We need to have the leadership team. We need to have the HR team. We need to have every one of the quote unquote silos coming together like this, bonding, appreciating, getting to know, so that they become like this, like a steel cable, unstoppable, unbreakable, flexible, aligned, informed, collectively very smart, very effective. And I say collectively because it's an interdependent. We are all interdependent. People say, I would like independence. There's no such thing as independence. We are dependent upon. We help others. We're working with a jigsaw puzzle. Our role as HR leaders